All right, we're doing a little impromptu session here, unscheduled, unannounced. We got a fun little setup here, trying out some new stuff. But I wanted to give a little demo of this new teal, or not new teal, but we've had the teal out for a while now. But I just got in some fresh horse hides. I had a customer in yesterday named Mike. He's a great guy, and he's very curious and asks great questions. So I kind of wanted to recreate some of the conversation we had yesterday because he's very into horse jacket for companies like Arrow. And he was asking me, oh, hey, Steve. Good to see you, Steve. So he was asking me about the difference between horsehide and steerhides, in particular for these jackets. So I thought it was worthwhile to mention some of the differences of why you may or may not want a horsehide for certain things. But these are horsehides on the table here. And actually, this one is here. It's actually half of a horsehide. And you can see on this edge here, gosh, there's two here. Hold on a second. So well prepared. So that is a single horsehide. Or horse front. So you can see it's kind of gnarly to think about, but this is a real animal. With great respect for the leather and the animals, and it really brings it front and center when you see what this animal has sort of given up for us here. But this is what I would call basically the waist of the horse, and below here is where we find the shells. So at the tannery, we actually crop these horse hides at sort of waist section and tan the butts specifically for shell cordovan. And then down this edge, this would be more of the mane where the animal had a mane, and we remove all that hair. And up towards the top here would be sort of the neck. And then you got their left leg here, sort of the back leg would be back here. But it's interesting to point out some of the differences in the steerhide and horsehide, and we actually happen to have, this is the same teal Latigo leather on a steerhide. So it's hard to see, maybe I'll do like a little close up here, but it's hard to see the difference in character unless you're in person. The horsehide has a very pronounced grain. They're very grainy. And the steerhides they're also grainy, but it's like they're finer. The hair follicles are closer together. So I'm going to try this. I don't know if this will work at all. But let's see. It's not doing anything. Well, let me just describe it. Sorry about that. The hair follicles are what we would call the grain on the steer, are a very specific pattern, and they're also a specific pattern on the horse that is different than every other animal. It's again the best word to come out that will come to mind is very pronounced grain. There's also things like pigskin and mule. Actually, mule is pretty similar to horse, but so other animals have different grain characteristics. I've seen a lot of old pig suede that has like a very pronounced pattern in the grain. So it's something that's kind of interesting to look out for. And I'm hoping to do sort of like macro photography of what the different grains look like. So when you're shopping for whatever boots or wallets or bags, you'll be able to make an informed decision. And not like the animal really tells much about the quality, but it kind of does, because this horsehide here, if you could tell, it's got a lot of natural imperfections, and all of the animals that Horween makes leather from are raised for meat. This is fully a byproduct of the meat industry. So in America, we don't think of horse as a food source, but it's a huge source of food around the world. So they're raised for their meat, and the horses actually tend to live a bit longer. So there's more opportunity for those horses to become scratched or scarred in the wild. So just like I cut myself when I was a kid here, I forget on what, that scar will be in my skin if I were ever to be made into a piece of leather. So the older the animal gets, there's more chance for it to scratch itself on barbed wire, things like that. The steers are actually raised quite quickly these days, so they tend to be a bit cleaner as far as the natural imperfections go. So I don't know how well it's on the video here, but like right here is an open hole. I can actually stick my finger through it. That was probably done when the animal was being skinned, which is kind of crazy, gross to think about, but they may have taken the knife too far and cut it. We call those butcher cuts. And there are lots of little scratches here, little healed scars, we call them. So see the darker areas on skin? They're just like little spots. They look like a scar that you would get on your arm. So there tends to be a lot of that on the horse side, and we also get a lot of these, I don't know how people call it in the world, but we call it draw. This sort of like, I think it's cool, this sort of spiderwebby looking awesome pattern. It reminds me of, I'm really big into guitars, and it reminds me of quilted woods. It sort of has that cool like highs and lows and an interesting pattern. That's coming through a lot better there. So I like that look. And I've got a new wallet. I was just trying to make a video of it. I demoed this on some of the live stuff before, but this wallet came from the area that isn't shell below the waist between the butts of the horses. So this leather would have lived right about here. So on this thing I'm trying to release, we're going to call it veg, Horween raw veg. And this is made from horse strips that sort of, they look like a mustache at the tannery. But we'll be getting a lot of that really cool natural draw look that I like. I don't so much like the scars. I think some people like that a lot because they know it's real. I probably would cut around those, but I like a lot of these highs and lows, and this wallet has some very faint ones. See that little, the highs and lows of color on the bottom here. So that's what I like in the Horsehide. For big companies, we're such a small company, we're able to sell those little unique things, but a big brand like New Balance would never be able to deal with that amount of inconsistency. They need to make the same product every time. So we kind of have a luxury being as small as we are to do fun things that we think look awesome that you can't just get naturally. I mean, we can get them, but there's not a lot of it. So on this skin here, I've got one spot right there that I could probably cut a wallet out of that has that cool patterning, but the rest of it is just full of scars. So a lot of what we do here when we cut this, so this wallet is the giant fox with the teal interior. So on this wallet, we cut the horse hides for the interiors, and we have to cut around all these scratches. So you can see we've done a pretty good job in this one because there's not much imperfection. So we're able to cut around all those little things. And it takes quite a bit of time and knowledge because you can actually hide, like this piece here is very long. And if I got a scar on this side of it, it can be hidden behind all these, so you'll never see it. So we kind of hide those in there. It doesn't affect the quality of it. It doesn't look as nice, so we hide them. So it takes a bit of knowledge of how, what to cut and where to put it in the patterns. And again, on the steer hides, it's a lot cleaner. So we can just sort of click these out, bam, bam, bam. And it doesn't take as much thought. So that's sort of irrelevant for a customer, but it's good to know if you're a leather crafter that the steer hides are much easier to cut, mainly because they have less natural imperfections. Let's see. I don't know what else to really talk about here, unless Steve, you got some questions. I kind of just did this impromptu thing because I wanted to try out this microphone setup with this new camera going on to see how things work. And I also thought it was really worthwhile to talk about the conversation I had yesterday with Mike, talking about Arrow using horse fronts for their jackets and why they're pushing steer hides. And actually, that's an interesting conversation too, is if the steer hides were not able to get as thin as the horse hides, we measure all of the leather in ounces of the tannery. So the steer hides, we can barely get to 3.5. 4 is a safer thickness for us to get to, which is about 2 millimeters or a little less. But the horse hides never can get above about 3 ounces. It's really hard for us to plump those up. So these tend to be thinner. And on a jacket, I actually think that's better. I think a thinner jacket is nicer because otherwise you're sort of like, it's just too much, too thick, too bulky, too hard to break in, too hard to wear, and heavy. And you don't really want to wear a 50-pound jacket just to be weighted down all day. So we can do the thinner steer hides, which we do, and Arrow makes jackets out of that. But they use as thin as possible. And it's actually hard for us to make enough horse hides right now for anybody, let alone the fact that the selections are much more rough. There's a lot of inconsistencies. So I would imagine if I was a jacket maker like Arrow, I would want to cut the steer hides like this because I can just pop them out. I can make a jacket. Whereas if I'm using a horse hide, it's a lot harder to cut, especially that huge pattern that jacket would be. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I need to like position the camera better. I should have put it sort of in front of where I'm talking at. Sorry, Steve, but thanks for being my test subject here. So let's see. With the jackets and stuff, it's all the same for quality though. I've read on some of the forums online that people aren't really sold on the idea that steer hide's reasonable to use for a jacket, and it's totally fine to use. Thanks, Steve. So it's not marketing spin to say that steer hide's just fine. It actually is fine. I think the concerns that I would have would be if it's too bulky, thick, but that would depend on whatever else lining they're putting in the jacket. And actually what type of leather it would be, because an amazing leather like Chromexcel, there's a lot of awesome Chromexcel jackets. If you were to make that in a steer hide, it might be really heavy because that leather is just fully tanned with waxes and oils. So it would get really bulky. So I'd be a little concerned with that. So more story, I suppose, is just try it on before you buy it. We actually have a store here in Chicago, if anybody's local, that can shop will let you try on jackets at the store here. They're relatively new. I think they opened up a store here a year ago. So it's worth going in there to check out some of those jackets. There's a really awesome, and I don't know if they're even available because it was limited release, but there's this really awesome jacket that Shot did with 316. And this is such a cool suede look. The photos don't do it any justice. It's this amazing, it's almost like it changes colors and it has this amazing character. I can't describe. It's just like a multi-hued suede sort of look that's really cool. That Nick Horween actually has one, and it's one of my favorite things to look at. So I'm going to try to borrow that from him. Maybe give a little demo on here. But all those jackets from Shot seem really great too. I seem to have too big of a gut to fit into a lot of their sizes, but I just think they look so cool. I'm going to try to read this, Steve. Actually, I see Shot Arrow also use Horween leather to do jackets, and they use Horween Chromexcel for the jacket, or Horween has non-Chromexcel hide for the. Yeah, we can make. There's a company called Golden Bear that also makes jackets in the United States, and they don't use Chromexcel, so you can definitely use non-Chromexcel for jackets. And I know certainly that Shot does that because that's the jacket I think looks really cool. Is that suede? It's actually leather that's new for the tannery called Sonoma. So we're actually using the suede side of the Sonoma instead of the grain side. So if you didn't know, the suede side is actually the back side. This one hasn't really been intended for suede, so we didn't suede it. But that suede Sonoma jacket that Shot does, it's a collaboration one, the Shot 316. Definitely Google search it because it's so cool. But yeah, they use non-chrome excel all the time. That's a good question. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, you can nerd out on this stuff with the horsehide versus the steerhide. And the differences are there. It's just so subtle. Again, it's just a very pronounced grain. I'd say very grainy. So if you like leather grain and you can get something in horsehide, I would do it. But I would imagine that most steerhide would be a little cheaper just because it's easier to cut larger patterns into, especially if you're doing like a jacket. It would be a lot easier to just, like I said, cut a huge jacket panel if there were no scratches here. But since there's so many scratches, like not all these horsehides, I got a bunch here. You have like 50 of these over there, and they're all pretty rough. So I think out of the 50 I have, maybe I cut 10 jackets just to give you a sense of how rough they really are. So anyways, I don't really know what else to chat about here. Again, this is sort of, I'm glad that I got that feedback from you, Steve, because I want to try out, I need a better setup with better video quality because my laptop, it's a nice laptop, but it doesn't have any reasonable audio or video. And I like the way this webcam looks. How does that, like the quality of the webcam look to you? It's not any crazy focusing stuff. Loose grain, yeah, we'll talk about that. Looseness is sort of random. I could run downstairs. I think you're the only one here. The chance is the same. I really want to grab a side from downstairs to show you. And oh, there's 3 people here. If you guys want to hang on a second, I'm just going to run downstairs and grab the side of leather so you can see where it will be loose. And I think it'll be worthwhile. 1 second. I'm back. See if I can do this. You also see the sides are way bigger. Probably, the sides are about twice as big as the horse fronts. So we get about 20 square feet on the sides and 11 on the singles. All right. Make some room here. Let's see. All right, 3 people still here. Thanks for waiting, guys. All right, this is a side of Dublin. It's a really awesome color, actually. I think this is russet brown Dublin. So on the side leather, this is steer. We've got, this is sort of the butt of the animal. I don't have enough room. All right. This is really cool leather. All right, you still with me? Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. This one, I actually measure them. So if you ever see this stamp on the back here, it tells you a bit of information. And wow, I picked a terrible example. So when we buy leather, we have to measure it first. Or when anybody buys leather, when Horween ships leather, we have a measuring machine that measures the surface area. So this is telling me that it was measured at least 3 times because I'm seeing a lot of information here. But it looks like it's 22.0 square feet. And it was measured on 11/24. And then it was measured again on, or maybe it was measured first on 3/24. And it was 22.0 feet. So either way, this is 22 square feet. So let's do the anatomy. The anatomy of a side. All right, so Horween tans sides of leather. A lot of places will tan whole hides, which is great because you have less pieces to run. So if you look, oh my gosh, let me turn the camera so you can actually see it. All right, on the far end there, that is the backbone of the steer. Back here is the backbone. So a full hide would be actually 2 of these sort of mirrored on each other. And again, this is pretty big. Usually we get around 20 feet. This one's sort of larger than normal. But again, backbone, butt is over here. And it's sort of more rounded. Let me see if I can get it in the frame. There you go. So the butts are a little bit more rounded. And then this would be the back leg here. I'm going to roll it out. For any leather workers out there, always roll the grain out. So see how I'm rolling it here and the grain is on the outside? You might think that that gives it more opportunity to damage the grain, but it actually keeps it from going loose. That looseness, that's actually why we're showing this demo anyways. Stephanie! Hey, good to see you, Stephanie. We were actually just talking about you yesterday. We're looking at, this is a sort of ad hoc video here. I didn't have planned, but this is a side of Dublin leather that I really wanted to show where things are loose. Because the conversation right now is why would a horsehide be more prone to looseness, or would a steerhide be more prone to looseness? And the answer is no, neither of them are more prone to it. It's that the fiber structures of each of the hides have less density in certain spots. So on that butt of the steer, it actually tends to be really tight. We tend to not get any looseness there. And if you Google search a single bend or a double bend, that's sort of like the ultimate cutting spot. It's the tightest, it tends to have the least amount of scratches and scars. So when we check looseness, we do sort of a move like this. I take my hand and I cup the leather into my hand and try to get like a little cup, and I put my finger in it to see how the character looks. Gosh, it's hard to show this on the camera. All right. And so anyways, the butts are really tight, but the bellies, I'm down here in the belly now, and up there is the neck. The bellies and the neck, the fibers actually go different directions than they do in the butts. It's really crazy. And if it's a female cow, the bellies actually stretch because they make babies. So the leather on a female actually tends to be thinner and looser. We don't, actually, I can't remember the last time we tanned a cow at Horween. But this is how we will check for looseness. Again, you sort of cup the leather like this and put your hand in it and see if it creases in an unpleasant way. We tend to see a lot of looseness right here. We call this the pocket. And if you look at the wrong side, you can see here that the fibers are less dense. They're actually like really shaggy. Gosh. See if that shows up on the camera. See all that shagginess right here? That may make the other side go loose. And it always happens in the pockets. This one's not so bad. Let's see where else. Look on the bend. Need a bigger table. But you can see everywhere else on the skin is sort of a very continuous, smooth look. Oh my God, bear with me here. All right, I'm gonna flip this over so I can sort of demonstrate that the difference in like the way and the directions that the fibers move in the skin. All right, definitely need a bigger table to do this next time. All right, so you can kind of see, maybe you can't, you're too far away. I'm just gonna take the camera and zoom in on all this so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is where it tends to go more loose here. And then you can see the rest of the skin is sort of like I'm sure you can't even hear me right now, but the rest of it's a lot more consistent, but it's more shaggy down there. All right. Cool. That was worthwhile, I think, maybe. The audio got better when I went. Tell me more about this audio. When I was like far away, it got better. That's bizarre. All right, let me just leave the mic over here then. How's that? Sound better? Maybe it is. Let's try it. So anyways, shagginess here. Tend to get more shagginess on the bellies. The camera doesn't even have a mic. That's weird. I don't know. I got to figure out this microphone. But we tend to get sort of looser stuff in the bellies in this area here that we call the pocket. And the necks have some looseness sometimes. And again, the way we check that is you take, here, I'll do it on the horse now. That's weird. All right, I just leave it here. It's better. All right. So on the horsehide, we would check it in the same way. I sort of cup my hand, and I'm looking in the crease, in the sort of like valley of where I'm creating with my hand. And you can see this is not loose at all. And if we look at the wrong side, I see little bits here that are more fibrous, but just slightly on the edge here. That's actually the belly of where this animal would have had a belly. So let's see if it's loose there. It's fun. So looseness is like actually this belt I've got. If I take any leather, let's see if I can make it loose and show you why it gets loose. So if I take any leather and sort of, we call it boarding. There's an old process where they would take a board and like slide it over the leather. You can do this with your hand. If you take a little corner like this and push it down on the leather, this is the same reason that we wouldn't roll the leather with the grain on the inside. It tends to make it loose. If you take it and sort of smooth it down like this, you put a little pressure, it will give you this, that sort of loose look. See it? Oh my God. This is the worst demo. See that little pebbled look there? Anyways, you can try this for yourself if you have a piece of leather. Take it and sort of roll it back in on itself. And I think it's actually a cool look, but it's sort of like a dated, like 1960s, 1970s look at this point. It's called boarded. And see how it's like a linear sort of creasing? Cool, you see it. So the cool thing is if you board it the other way with that original board, it gives it sort of like a, it's called cross boarding. And this is hard boarding when you're boarding the grain in on itself. We can actually soft board as well, which is if I flip the leather upside down and boarded it this way, it tends to not give the leather that sort of loose look. It just sort of softens it out. But crossboarding, this is more of like a checkerboard look. All right. Oh my God. It's not showing up on the camera. Kind of hard to see, but that's how a leather becomes loose, is you're actually getting the leather to delaminate from the grain structure of the hide. So I like to think of it as a house. If you've got your foundation of your house, that's sort of all this stuff. So if you were to look at the cross section of the leather, there's a fiber layer and then there's a grain layer sitting on top of that. When you disturb the grain layer by putting pressure on it like this, it can't move fast enough to get around the other amount of fibers underneath. So it actually is delaminating itself. It's separating from the foundation of your house. So you're going to lose the frame above and it sort of separates. And that's what looseness is. Can you guys still hear me? It's weird that I'm not even using this. Yeah. I'm sorry that you can't see it. It's easy to see in person here. But that's sort of like an old school look. People would do this like hand boarded look, and you can actually go back on top and sort of polish it. So it gives it this really interesting sort of tipped look where you get darker tips of those pebbled surfaces, and then the valleys are a lighter shade. Yeah, did you hear the ambulance? We're in the city center here. So I'm surrounded by a couple big roads, and the tannery is just up the street, and all the tannery stuff here is like right in the heart of the city now. But 100 years ago, this was just tanneries down the street here. Let me try this again because it's cool now. Maybe not. So you can do that same thing on steer hides. They will all have the same opportunity to become loose. Let's do it though. Let's get a knife. scissor. So this will be a good demo because this color is really cool. It has the Dublin has that hard wax surface, so it will show us really easily what the looseness looks like. But again, this is before I'm doing anything. It's a really cool color Dublin. It has this pull up. So if I were to take this and board it, hard board it, taking the leather on itself, like I bent this little triangle back, I can roll it down. Maybe it won't get loose. This one's not really breaking up. It is lightning in color though. It's not really pebbling, but it certainly looks cool. And then the cool thing about Dublin is you can always like polish that darkness back. It should get dark. Yeah, anyways, what else can I show you guys? I've got a whole workshop of stuff here that we can go over. I've got a wall full of wallets in front of me. I've got a ton of leather care products. What should we just call it? It's Dublin's cool. You see wallets? Well, yeah, so all the stuff here, these are all things that we got orders for on the afternoon yesterday that didn't get to ship out. So let's see. This is a marbled Fat Herbie. That looks like we still need to finish the edges on, but that's really cool. I think you're a marbled fan, right, Stephanie? VSC, Venetian cream? VSC. Oh, denatured alcohol back there? Yeah, this wallet's sweet. I don't actually know. I don't really know what we're using this for. Let's leave that there. So yeah, I've got this Fat Herbie. Let's see. This looks like a natural Herbie, which I love. It's got that really nice ink stamp. And another ink stamp. Here's some reverse stuff. So we started promoting the reverse cordovan. So this guy's going to get a really cool, it's probably going to look like this on the outside, and then the inside like so. Yeah, the natural's really, I'm surprised you don't already have one. I mean, just because you have so much stuff. The natural shell is so special. If you like Patina, or if you like watching things change over time, you really can't beat the natural. Really cool. This is not shell, but it actually sure has the same characteristics of shell. This is just an extra smooth piece of chrome excel. Here. This particular leather is just extra smooth, and it's like more dense than most chromic cells. I'm not sure why, but it's super awesome. Yeah, the natural, it just sort of like develops from underneath. It's almost like the color starts to grow from the bottom, and it's a golden brown shade. That's really cool. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to point the camera at the wall of wallets, and we'll look at them. All right, so let's see what we got. These were the teals that I pulled out, so I can put those back now. And this is actually the last black outside and teal inside. I've got a Great Lakes Blue Derby here that for some reason people didn't really like, but I think it's really cool. Let's see if this shows up. It's not working. You want to get your Inception YouTube live there? So this is Great Lakes Blue Derby that has that amazing pull up to it. I think it's really cool. You know what? Maybe the audio is coming from the camera and not the microphone. Does this sound loud? Yeah, a wall of wallets. This is Stephanie's wall. Here, we'll do a demo. So we've got flash sale stuff. We've got key cases, bugs, Apple Watch bands, passport holders, Megan jacks, watch bands, Fat Herbies, more Fat Herbies, Tony's, valet trays, boxes, all sorts of stuff. And then on the adjacent wall over there, I've got a bunch of belts right there, which I don't know if you can see. Oh, belts. The snaps are loud. Okay, so maybe the audio is coming through there. That's stupid. Okay, so I need to like mess with my routing next time. Stephanie, come work here. You can come do my job. I don't have enough time to do all the stuff I want to do. Like I want to do more of these videos, but I just run out of time all the time. What's crazy? Do you like amaretto? I think that amaretto is really cool. With a black shell on the inside. Yeah, if you come to Chicago, just send me an email. I know you have it. Black shell, amaretto. Amaretto is really crazy how much it changes color. What else is fun? These are fun. So I call this sort of like business on the outside with the party on the inside. I love these reverse interiors because they're just so unique. But then that color 8 shell on the outside. Oh. It's cool. I'm a big fan. Oh, the Horween stamp. Later, Steve. Yeah, I'm only here doing this right now because my wife is out partying with her friends. So I'm killing time. All right, Stephanie, we need to get you another video of something. What do you want to see? Oops, sorry. What do you want to see, Steph? Patina video. So I would love to do that. I need to get, I got to send you something like this. This is the wallet I've been wearing recently. This is horsehide strips. Some people call it, some places I believe in Europe call it north of Cordovan, which is marketing spin. Yeah, you know what? My brother Matt has been doing a lot of the Instagram, and I think he's really crushing it. I just don't have against the time thing. Like I'll give him shots from the tannery to put up there, but he's doing a really good job posting just cool wallets and stuff. Because I do have that day job at Horween. It's a really big commitment of time there that I just can't. I don't even look at Instagram most times. Yeah, Matt's got. I gave him a wallet years before he started working here. He never stopped wearing it. I think that's the one he's been taking photos of. Let's look at some. Let's look at some marbled stuff. Let's see a bunch of different marbled shell. It's so rich. Okay. Marbled one. Yeah, I actually have a uncut marbled shell right here. Focus. Yeah, marbled's really cool. And I can't really get too detailed on how to make it, but what I can tell you is that we put layers of finish on and then remove them by hand. So the thing that kind of bums me out, but it's also the cool part of the marble is you sort of need the context to make it as cool as possible, which is why I like it on the Herbie, is you can see a lot of the different areas. Because if it was just this little spot, it's sort of not that exciting. So I really wish that I could get a huge one and make like a bag or something. So that's marbled before you cut it. You can see the edges are darker. Let's see. Okay, we got this marbled. Let's see how many marbled. Exactly. You need to see more variation to make it cool. So we try to cut them in ways that those patternings is patternings word? So the pattern looks cool. So I like to see it like that, or like on the inside here on the left, I think looks really cool. This one's a little darker. Actually, this is really cool. I wonder if you can even see it. This one's quite a bit darker. But that's sort of the context I'm talking about. And it's all random, so we can't really control it, which is part of what I think is cool about it. So that's cool. This one looks really dark. That's awesome. So yeah, as you can see, I have a few of these because I like to cut the marbled stuff into the bigger patterns. So I like to cut them into the Herbies. It's awesome. This one's a little lighter. Ooh. Cool. What else can we talk about, Steph? The only other thing I'd be doing tonight is playing video games by myself. So I'm happy to talk about anything you want. Oh, look. Not marbled. So this is just regular color 8, which is getting a little cloudy. Maybe we talk about that. This little, it looks like dull. That's just the waxes coming back out to the surface. Natural color, I'd say the if it's between natural and just regular color 8, which I love, and you like patina, it's a no-brainer. You gotta get the natural. All right, bloom. So I've observed, and I'm not sure what the science is behind this, if you let a leather that has a high concentration of waxes and oils sit, it tends to have this sort of cloudy, waxy look that we call bloom. There's been some real gross names, like somebody called it spew once, but we were going to start calling it bloom. Let's call it bloom because it's much more pleasant. So bloom, I've observed that when the temperature changes, it's almost like it wrings the waxes out of the leather and brings it back to the surface. You got to remember that the amount of waxes and greases and oils that we tan into the shell and chromexol and some other leathers, it's almost half wax at that point. So when the temperature gets real cold, and it was, let's say, a real example would be like if the temperature went from 70 to 30, you would start to see this cloudy look appear. Yeah, spew is disgusting. So we got bloom. The bloom starts to come out, I think, when the temperature changes enough for the wax to, I don't know what it's doing. It's probably less mobile or something. And it's almost like it's getting squeezed out through the pores of the skin and it sits up on the surface. So there's this amazing photo that Horween took when he first started working with me, or I guess I was working with him. I was working at the tannery before Nick was, because he was living in New York. But he came back and did this amazing photo of these Alden Color 8 wingtips. And one of them, it looks like they had sat around for years. I guess they were his grandfather's shoes. So one of them is completely covered in that wax, and the other he had just polished up. And it really shows you how this leather almost takes care of itself. So I actually found old marketing literature at the tannery. It must have been from the 50s where they were marketing it as self-polishing leather. So the cordovan and the chromexol were being sold as self-polishing. So you didn't need to buy a separate polish to put on the leather. You just brush it, sort of like I did with that wallet a second ago. So that's what bloom is. And it looks like, if you didn't know any better, you would think it looked like mold, but it's definitely not mold. You've seen that photo. I love that photo. I want him to redo that photo because it was so long ago that the resolution and photo quality just weren't as good as they are now. So it's like a small photo. I wish it was huge and I would put it as my desktop or something. Steph, you asked a bunch of questions before. Should I just pull that up and we can just answer your questions? Because I asked you for questions, and I'm going to make separate videos. Let's see. Maybe I can't find this. We could probably mention too, since this video is supposed to be about teal Latigo, why I can't get this same color on cordovan. And the big reason, and I can't get that color on a lot of leathers, and it's because the amount of waxes and oils in the chrome excel and cordovan sort of only allow it to be earth tones. So on this, this is a Latigo tannage. On the Latigo, there's still a bit of oils and waxes, but there's far less, and you can get brighter shades. Let's see what Steph asked. I don't even know if I know I saved it. Okay. Did you ask a question? Does this sound familiar? Who are the people that make up Ashland Leather? And what are their favorite parts of the construction process? I think you asked me this. So Ann and myself started the company in 2009. Or is it 2000? No, 11. 2011. We officially started. And the first person we hired is my friend Laura, because Laura really wanted to make stuff. She was working a tech job, and this is a side note, but I'll tell Laura's story first. Laura was working at a tech job. She was doing sort of IT support sort of stuff and wasn't very satisfied with it. And she knew I was making the wallets. She kept asking me to work. She's like, if you never ever need somebody to make something for you, I'd love to work with you. Well, it got to the point where Dan and I were just so busy with both jobs that we hired her. And the only reason I hired her is because she wanted to make stuff. And that's why we started doing it. We just wanted to make wallets or make things that we could use. So that's how she got hired. And then after that, our second employee is Amanda. All these people still work with us. Amanda, we trained up from scratch. She's awesome. She's Dan's stepdaughter. And he basically taught her how to do all the stuff that he does. And now she's our main production sewer. So she's done amazing stuff for us. I mean, she would fill in at first just packing orders for us because, we had a day job. And then we hired, we have some outside people we work with that are third-party contractors that are really great. And then we hired my brother, Matt. I guess it must have been 3 years ago now. And we hired, and Matt's amazing. He's like the clone of me as I was years ago, like where he was doing all the emails because I had to do all the emails. And I really wanted people to get a response right away. So I had Matt help out to get people answers to their questions and ship stuff out. So Matt's our final QC now. He does all the edge finishing. He does cutting. Matt sort of does it all. He's great. And then we have Lupe, who started almost a year ago now, I think about 11 months ago. And she's really a hustler and is picking up. She's also running a lot of production for us. So a lot of these wallets are made by women. And yeah, a lot of the finishing is done by Matt. A lot of the cutting is done by Dan still. Oh, have you met Amanda? Amanda's very cool. She's got a really cool style that I like a lot. So those are the members of the team. I don't know. I could ask them what they like doing the most, but I hate to say it, like kind of don't have a choice sometimes because we just have so much to do that we just have to do what we have to do. Yeah, man, it's cool. I can tell you that my favorite part of the construction process is I really like the polishing and beveling. I think beveling is really satisfying to do. I have a beveling tool here somewhere. This tool. It's really satisfying to take this little guy and round the edges. I just think it's really fun. And that's one of the things I used to do when we first started the company is I was doing all the edge finishing and all the beveling. And I would sit there every day after work until 10 p.m. just polishing and beveling and listening to music and rocking out. This is really fun. I'll move this a lot. So that's my favorite part. Let's do a couple more questions here. Oh, what inspired us to make wallets? They're gangsters, Chicago gangsters. That's a really good question too, because I think it turned out really well. I think it fits so much of what we are. And I have to give all the credit to my friend Noah. Noah is a creative director in California, and I met him when I was going to school out there in Santa Cruz. And he works at, he's an independent contractor for a lot of creative firms now, but I was asking him for ideas on copywriting, and he wrote the Fat Herbie description, which if you read it, it's like really well written. I could never write in that style. Maybe a little wordy, but it just sort of like evokes the sense of what this wallet is, and it really relates it to who the real guy was. But the reason that we named it after Chicago Gangsters is we needed something that when you said the word Chicago, what you would think of right away, and that was gangsters or the mob, more specifically. And then we were like, we should just name it after mobsters, and it really fit really well. It's sort of like this tough guy Chicago vibe that I think really suits us. And I did have, so we have the Louis Little New York, and I got an email one day from Phil Campagna, and he said, the only thing in the email was, thank you for honoring my uncle with your wallet. I think it was his uncle. And I was actually kind of scared because I couldn't tell if he was being sincere. And I said, I responded to him and I said, thank you so much. It's, we're really trying to pay respect to all these people. Let me send you a wallet. And he ended up telling me a story back. He said, my uncle died as he was fishing. And I said, wow, these emails are very brief from him. So I was a little scared, but he said he died as he was fishing. And I said, wow, that's one powerful fish. And he said the only response back was, he said it was a grouper. So I just thought it was so funny. And that other thing is like, these are real people, and I could see how it would be a sensitive thing. So we're really trying to be respectful. All the gangsters I'm trying to appreciate as real people, and none of this is like parody or anything like that. It's really about that point in time in Chicago where things were run by the mob, and it's sort of paying homage to that story. It's like I said, it's about the people, but it's not like about them. It's about their aesthetic. So that's how we named them after gangsters. It's really worked out well. I've been avoiding doing what's his name, the most famous gangster, Al Capone, because I wanted to do like a really wimpy, stupid wallet or something with his name on it, or something that was just real small, just as an ironic thing. But also I didn't want to do it because it felt really cliche. I didn't want to just make an Al Capone. It's too on the nose almost. And then you'll notice that things that aren't wallets don't get names, don't get gangster names. So it's just an Apple Watch band. It's not like a gangster watch band. Is that a good enough answer? Pretty detailed. Oh yeah, that kind of answers your next question. Do you see yourself continuing this theme as you develop new offerings? Yeah, I think we've gotten to the point where I want to not necessarily make a lot more wallets, but I just want to improve the ones that we have. For example, like the passport holder is really just the Fat Herbie, but constructed to accommodate a passport. And I think we can do better than that. So I really want to make a new passport holder. The machine gun jack is like a little weird. It was originally supposed to be a card holder, but people were upset that it didn't hold cash very well. So I think we're going to try to revamp that. I mean, we're always sort of tweaking like little details of what can be improved. But I don't really want to make too many more wallets because I think there's already a lot and it's hard to keep track of. But if people start asking for a specific thing over and over, then we'll do wallets. Oh, there's some weird noise out there. Oh yeah, your next question is actually that. You mentioned potentially scaling back some of the offerings in favor of a more focused lineup. However, I'd like to ask, are there any other designs that you would like to see Ashland offer in the future? Yeah, so I'm actually working on a camera lanyard right now with Nick Horween that I have the proto here. So this is basically just supposed to wrap around your wrist and then attach to a camera. But it's turning out that is more complicated than just a piece of leather. So this is actually 2 layers of shell that we laminated together and then sewn down the middle because I wanted to have enough strength. And then we're gonna, sorry, those 2 pieces of leather laminated together, sewn down the middle. I'm gonna put a copper rivet through this hole on the end. So it closes off, and then we've got paracord that I need to figure out a way to hide it behind these layers so the knot that ties the paracord around this copper rivet doesn't show, which I'm not sure how I'm going to do. And then the paracord comes off and attaches to a camera. So I think we can do some fun stuff in the camera world, and that's what Nick wants to do with this. Dan had this amazing, I don't even know if he wants me to show you this, but he made this coin pouch years ago. It is so crazy looking. It looks old. It looks like 100 years old. And I think he's worn it for maybe 3 years. But this thing is great for like a coin pouch because you can sort of like look at your coins and then put them back in. I think this might be something we'll do. I know Matt made another coin pouch for like a private label customer in Japan that's a little similar to that we're going to modify to make as like a business card holder. So not really specifically like wallet stuff, because I think we've got a lot of wallet stuff. But there's a lot of Europeans that want coin pouches, and there's a lot of Asian people that live in Asia that want business card holders, because I guess business cards are very big there, which I guess they're big here, but it's more of like a status thing there. But we do have like we have a list of about 100 different products we want to make. I got Amanda. I asked her to give me a list of things that she would want to make that she think would be fun to develop. So I picked a wine carrier. So she's going to be working on that. So maybe that'll be coming. Yeah, this coin pouch, like I could imagine without being used, looks kind of boring. But like here. So it's actually sewn inside out, and then he turned it right side out because it doesn't look that boring. But he hand cut this one. Oh my God. I just think it looks crazy now. It looks just like ancient. It's so cool. So yeah, I think that might be about it for me tonight because my battery's running out here. Yeah, shell interior. Okay. I want to answer one of your other questions here too. You were mentioning, or you were asking, why do the interiors of the shell wallets scratch? And there's actually a good reason for that, which was how it came to the idea of the reverse interiors. So on a microscopic level, the shell is very coarse. It's actually coarse enough to where it will scratch itself. It doesn't feel coarse because our fingers won't feel that small amount of abrasiveness. It's kind of like a Mr. Clean magic eraser. Like it's microscopically abrasive, but when you feel it, it doesn't feel sharp. This is the same way. So when you fold the leather in on, or when you have a wallet and you close it in on itself, and a little bit of dirt gets in there, or if it rubs this direction, it will scratch itself. So what you can do I honestly, I don't like to try to tell people to avoid it. I try to say, like, because I think it's the right thing. I think you should embrace that as part of the character, because I think it looks kind of cool. It looks like you've used something and it's grown with you, but you can sort of minimize it by applying polishes like the sapphire here. Like these cordovan creams. You can sort of minimize it with this or any sort of waxy polish, but I don't like to put too much of anything on the shells because I don't think it needs it. And if you put too much on, it can make it a real dull, like terrible look. So the answer is shell will scratch itself, and it does on the interiors of the wallet. If you don't like that, or you don't want to experience that, that's why the reverse interiors exist. And the reverse actually sort of has a polishing effect. So it actually gets a little bit smoother, more glassy over time, which I like a lot too. But I like the shell as well. So what do you think about that, Steph? I've got an answer for everything. Well, you guys hung out. I mean, there's only a couple of you guys here tonight, but I'm glad you came and decided to spend some time with me at the shop, just because it makes this a lot more fun than me just talking to myself. So I'd rather talk to 3 of you than none of you, and it's been a pleasure. So unless you guys have anything else for me, I just really appreciate you guys. And if you come up with something later that you want to talk about, just send me an email, and I can make you a personal video. I'll do whatever you need. Yeah, thanks for the hangout. It's good to see you. It's funny that you popped up because no joke, we were talking about you yesterday. We had a customer come in, and he mentioned that he saw you talking about all sorts of stuff on Instagram. So the word's getting out about you. It's very cool. All right, guys, thanks again. Have a good night. See ya.